Hey, welcome back to the Builditbasement. Today we're going to continue with our Voron 2.4R2 build, specifically our StealthBurner portion of that. I got a lot of little details here that I've worked out. Not going to do them live on camera, but we're going to go over those things and let's jump right into it. All right, little delay since my last video, and I apologize for that, but I've been dealing with some gremlins on my end. Cute little guy, right? Anyways, so StealthBurner. Left off, last thing we did was put a fan on here. This is the blower fan for the part cooling. And that's kind of where we're going off track again, because we seem to like doing that. So bring it over to here. So KB3D is one of the, I guess I call them one of the prime vendors for all the additionals that we get for our Vorons, including the LDO kits and other things like that. I think they do Trident kits, V0 kits, V2.4 kits, all those things. But anyways, they have a cool little wiki on their website, wiki.kb-3d.com, and some very good up-close photos of specifically the two-piece StealthBurner PCB kit that you can buy from them and others made by Lineo. But there's a bunch of different people that are making these. They're all based off of the same board. So a good thing about these drawings is they do, photos, is they do have close enough pictures where you can actually read the boards with relative ease. You can see basically a 5 volt, 24 volt, your grounds, auxiliaries, all those types of things, and kind of photos where your spacer goes on there, and a bunch of other stuff too. So this was one of the reference points I used, but let's go over what I actually did. All right. Let's see here. Where are we? All right. So StealthBurner. Since last video, majority of the things I did. Let's go with this guy right here. Yep. Let's bring that nice up and close. So we put the fan in here, and we're at the point where we had our lights in here. We had our 3DO camera in here, which is routed up and around. Part of my voice is a little hoarse, just getting over a little something. So we brought that up, and then we put this into our two-piece PCB by Lineo. I did remove the heading connections that are on here to do a direct solder. I think it neatens it up a little bit, and the slide connections that are on here are not locking. This is a part that is going to be rarely serviced, if at all. It's actually built right into the tool head, so I felt better about soldering it. Plus, it reduced some parts I didn't need in here. As for connections, you have your positives out here, the 24 volts for your blower fan, and then your 24 volts over here for your hot end fan, and then your pins right here for your LED lights. One thing you don't have coming to this board is your 3DO camera, and I had to figure out a way to get around that since the board did not want to fit inside of this. So that board is mounted on the back side of the stepper for the extruder. It was the best place I could put it, as opposed to having it on the outside of this. It becomes completely buried to the printer. You're not going to see it during normal operation. A couple other things you're gonna have to do while you're doing this is not only take these header pins off and solder directly on here. Soldering, basically, just for those that aren't too familiar, good thing to have is a nice flux pen. Very good, flux up those parts. You're gonna want to heat up your old solder with some new solder, and then basically push through those heading pins out through the backside, lift them off with a pair of tweezers, and then clean up your parts. You're gonna use a little bit of isopropyl and a brush. And when you use a brush, make sure you're using just like a nylon brush to clean that off. You don't want to use anything metallic, just enough to get off the rosin from the solder pen, or the flux pen, or the flux rosin. Let's see, beyond that connection points, we did that. Yeah, so that's where that leads you off, and this is where this is. So back over here to the extruder side, you are going to have to repin this. Just remember, back on that KB3D site, they give you the pinouts for the LDO version of the stepper motor for the Voron version of this, which is different than the one that they show in the picture. So make sure you read the words that go with the picture. If you have never depinned a connector before, they make these tools. These work pretty well. If you don't have them, you can use tweezers. There's other methods too. But basically, you get in and you depin your connector. Probably put a video up about that at some point in time, but it can be time consuming, kind of a pain in the butt. Other modifications. So one other modification made was, at this moment in time, there is no good known board for the 24 volt version of the clicky probe. So this board on this, the major board for the 2-part PCB has been modified, and what's been done here, just to note, is there's a trace that's been cut right here, which is a 24 volt that goes to this header on the front side right here, and that's been then jumped over to a 5 volt pin over here. So now that's providing 5 volts signal and ground to that. So it allows us to use our our tap probe with this unit, and not have to worry about having 24 volts going to it and possibly frying it. All right, let's back this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so what else we have? We have that, we have that, we have this. So if we're putting this together, just real quick here, this is what we're going to be looking at. We're going to have our front housing assembly. There's our hot end attached to that. Obviously, this all gets screwed together when it gets on the printer. We'll bring that over in a moment. And then we have our extruder. Extruder is going to wind up going on, actually first on to the printer, but when everything's said and done, it's going to look something like this. Okay. And then this ribbon cable for our camera is going to get plugged in. Before we do that, I'm going to show you what the video on that looks like real quick. And then we have our extruder plugs that are going to go into our PCB that we're going to mount on there. So let's get that mounted first, I guess, is this PCB board. So this mounts into this in a way so that it allows these 8 heading pins or header pins to slide into the other parts on the other side. And to do that, we need to first attach, actually let me go back to this real quick just to show the spacer. So right there is the spacer that we're going to put on, and basically if you hold your part in the same position as what they have in the photo, you should be able to arrange to get your stuff together. And let's of course, if your fingers are horribly inept like mine, it's to the whole other series of issues. So let's get this one through. Put that like that. And then this guy is pretty much going to slide through like this. Okay, and then we can screw this down. And when you screw this down, go ahead and shore it up, make sure it's where you need to be, but then loosen it up quite a bit, just so you get a couple threads on each side. We want this to be wiggleable. Okay, and the reason for that is it has to be made up during the assembly of the unit. So to do that, make sure we do it right, we have to get it done right. Let me see if I have what I want over here real quick. Test. Let's see here, screen share. I don't know what I do. I was going to try to show you what the camera looks like on this, but maybe I'll do a couple short videos with that. It's pretty neat. It's a 4K camera, very close depth of field on it. Very nice. So I guess at this point we can bring the printer over, our the big boy, and I start slapping this actually on the printer. Get rid of my little stealth burners. Where is it? Here? Yeah, there. Those are the little ones. Yeah. Anyways, get rid of those, and then probably go to that camera angle for a second. Yep. See if we got enough room here. It's hard when you go from big things to small things, or small things to big things. There we go. All right, I'll push that back, and then figure out a way to get the camera in a place where it actually works. Think. I think we can do this. All right, I think this will work. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that'll work, right? So we got our tap right here. Tap, tap, tap. This is also repinned to match the input on our PCB here for our 24 volts our signal. Keep in mind on these, blue is ground, so be aware of that. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the PDF, and we're going to see where they go over assembly. Skip over these parts right here because we're using the tap, we're not using the regular X carriage. So right through here. So first thing we got to do is basically mount the extruder portion of this to the carriage. So the way that's going to happen is the extruder is going to kind of sit up here the right way, huh? Like that. Yep. And then we need some, let's see, M3 by 8s. M3 by 8s. Most popular screw in the whole build. M3 by 8s. I'm going to put some blasphemy gel on it, or red locker. So let me do that real quick. Back to this. All right. So let me adjust that again, right to there. All right. So we got two M3 by 8s that are going to go in. And there are some handy dandy holes cut into, or designed into the part. They're not cut into the part. Tighten that up pretty good. Like so. Okay. And then we get that screw, access holes like we were talking about. Bada bing, bada boom. And then tool head carriage. All right, so tool head carriage, that's this guy right here. Okay, and we'll flip our flap up as opposed to flapping our flip up. I do have our piece of Voron tube in here, already cut the length. We did that in the previous step. And on there are two tabs, 1, 2. We want to make sure these go underneath the screws that we left out. I believe it was about 5 millimeters. Now I do have enough room in there just to get in and give them a small tweak, just so they are kind of touching. Then They're not necessarily holding the part, but they are touching the part. Okay, so there's that. And now the actual StealthBurner portion of it. So this is a little tricky. And the reason why I say it's tricky is because we gotta get our 3DO ribbon cable in there, and then everything kind of snapped together at the same time. So I'm going to slide my ribbon cable in like so. I'm gonna be a little bit careful with that. Not exactly a heavy duty cable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the bottom in first. Hard to see. So I'm kind of putting the bottom in first, and then I'm going to kind of sort of try to snap it into place like so. And make sure we get those pins connected. And that's pretty much what's holding it on right now, those pins. So it should line up pretty well, like it is here. Can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah, there we go. And there we go. Fun. All right, cool. So now we need, what do we need? We need some M3 by 25s. And I think, actually I know that I buried my, let's see here. What are these? These are M3 by 30s. M3 by 30s. I buried all my titanium screws in the back corner. M3 16. Where are my M3 by 25s? M3 by 20. 40. Well, that's interesting. M3 by 25. Right there. All right, so M3 by 25, we need 2 of these. It's gonna be, these are on the top, so one's gonna go there. And one's gonna go here. And then M3 by 50s. These are going on the bottom. These are pretty much tying it all together. That like that. And then it's gonna move tighten. These I am choosing not to put thread locker on because if I am going to work on this printer, this would be one of the items that would come off. I wouldn't say often, but pulling the front of the tool head would be pretty normal. So slowly screw these in. So, I'm not going to over tighten them. I'm actually just getting them slightly finger tightened so we can make sure that all of them kind of get to where they need to go. There we go. All right. And I'm gonna spin this 90 degrees. Maybe a little bit more on that. Call it 120 degrees. How about that? And move this camera over a little bit. There we go. And we have our ribbon cable right here. That's for our camera. We also have our connection here for our extruder. And I'm going to make that connection right now. That is in. And then we have our two plugs here, one for the hot end and one for the thermistor. And I'm actually going to take the thermistor plug first and kind of tuck it in towards the front a little bit. And allow that one in. Things in the way here. All right, and then I take our hot end plug and do something similar with that. And bring it up and then back down. The printer's half hanging off the table here, so it's bouncing around a little bit. Plugged in. And it's gonna be out of the way. We want to make sure nothing's touching that. If you look deep inside there, there's actually one of the gears for the extruders, for the extruder. You want to make sure you don't have wires rubbing against that at all. So be aware of that. So then on the back side here, I'm going to make my connection. Between my camera and the PCB. Which is pretty delicate, but not horribly so. There we go. And that is 100% clear of everything else. Okay, so tool head, and then we need our connection between our tap probe and the PCB for that. And that, let's see. It's the best angle of attack. I think we're gonna have to come through the backside here. Like so. And then see if I can tuck some of these wires like that again. And then make sure this is all gonna shut the way it needs to. Yeah, I think we'll be good. Let's see. It's the right size. Where is this one? There. There's our stealthy StealthBurner. So let me spin this around a little bit more. Just kind of give everybody a full shot. So on the back side here is where we have our PCB for our camera. Now the one thing I didn't do yet, which I couldn't do until I had that on there, was our mount for our drag chain. So we'll go ahead and get that on there too. It's actually right behind the camera. There we go. And then when I flip this around, I'll get the other screw that goes in there as well. I couldn't put that on until I had this ribbon cable plugged into the board on the back side of the extruder motor for that. All right, so let's see if we can get a look at that video, huh? All right. So I've gone ahead and I've hooked this up with a USB cable directly to my PC, so I can bring the video in, and let's see if I can do that real quick. All right, so this blurry that you're looking at right now is because of the preset focus on that nozzle cam. So let's bring something a little bit closer to where it wants to be. And I know it's not hugely bright, but there you go. That's centimeters and millimeters on my metal ruler here. And you can see the grain of the metal, the grain of the steel on there. So you'll be looking at some pretty dang decent looking HD 4K video coming out of this. So pretty excited about that. All right, well, thank you for joining me and having some fun. Again, I apologize for a little bit of delay between this video and my previous video. There won't be such a delay between this video and my next video, unless I get sick again. But if you did enjoy this video, please do hit that like button, hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.